Had great calves, though.
But this reminds me about a bit of an interesting unsolved murder. Have you ever heard of the murder of Roland T. Owen?
No, I have not. Roland T. Owen?
Yeah, Roland T. Owen.
Very sing-songy name.
I was going to say, sounds like a country song.
Roland T. Owen, dying in the hotel. Look at him dead, look at him dead. He'll probably never die again. Of all the unsolved murders in the U.S., the murder of Roland T. Owen is certainly one of them. On Wednesday, January 2nd, 1935, a man who identified himself as Roland T. Owen checked into the Hotel President in Kansas City and never checked out. Now, when he showed up, he had no luggage, no other clothing, no items at all except basically what he was wearing and a few things he was carrying. Now, according to a bellhop, all he had was a brush, a comb, and toothpaste with him. That's it.
If he had no luggage, he probably was just either carrying them straight out right in front of his person.
This is my comb and my toothbrush. I would like room at Hotel President.
Or he
Roland T. Owen.
Or he was tucking them into the pockets of his person.
Note that I don't have anything on me.
In case you notice,
this
traveling very light. All I got is this right here. Check it out. They checked him in, and Roland was checked into room 1046 or 1046. Because that's how numbers can be said. You can say numbers different ways.
Yeah, that actually helps people memorize them.
They're like, oh, okay.
Think about that.
Just like when people tell you their phone number weird. It's like 428-16-7.
Why are you telling me this? Send me a text.
Later that day, a maid came to clean the room, and she found Owen sitting alone in the room with just a small lamp lighting the room with the shades drawn. Later, she said that he always liked to keep it dark. Always liked the room dark.
Kind of like the Genesis song.
Oh, keep it dark. That's one of my favorite Genesis songs. It's such a great song. Now, he told her to leave the room unlocked because he was expecting a guest later, and then Owen left the room. The maid said that he appeared to be nervous and frightened, kind of agitated by something going on. 4 hours later, she returned with clean towels. She found the room still unlocked from earlier, and she entered, feeling that he probably wasn't there, and found Owen laying, fully clothed, on the top of the still-made bed, asleep. And there was a note on the bedstand that read, Don, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait.
He didn't say like 9:17.
No, just a note that said, Don, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Wait. And he's sitting there, laying there completely clothed on top of the sheets.
Time it takes to eat whatever, like a foot-long Frankfurter and then... I don't know.
Don, went to buy Hot Pocket. We'll be back in 7 minutes.
Served by a soda jerk. Now, that night, around 11 p.m., a man named Robert Lane was driving home when he was flagged down by a man wearing just an undershirt and slacks and no coat despite the cold. Robert noticed that the man had a deep scratch on his arm. He said, You look as if you've been in it bad. Robert said. The man responded, I'll kill that blank tomorrow.
Oh.
The newspaper that reported this omitted the expletive. I'd like to think it wasn't the B. I'd like to think it's a C. You know, everybody wants to go with the B, but it's like it's gotta want. You know,
we're assuming
I have small goals.
It was B or C, and not like F or like
a V,
or there could be
O.
There could be
God, those O's.
That W.
There's so many O's.
Robert Lane drove the man to a taxi stand, and later, when questioned, he would identify the man as Roland T. Owen.
He gave this fucking salty-ass motherfucker a ride after. He's like, I'll kill that bitch or whatever, whoever.
He's like, okay, I'm just going to take you to the taxi stand and get out of my car as quickly as possible.
I would have been like, dude, get out of here.
You know when...
Well, maybe he was like, yeah.
Who are we talking about?
Yeah, we could do this tonight. The next day at 10:30 a.m., the same maid returned to clean the room. This time, she found the door locked from the outside.
Oh, no.
As if the guest had left and locked the door. So she assumed that Roland was out, used her passkey, and entered the room.
This maid, she assumes she can go in if it's open. She assumes she can go in if it's locked.
That's what maids fucking do, dude. Have you ever been to a hotel?
Yeah, I guess.
They'll walk right in you.
They're like, lady, chill.
So she enters the room, and there again is Owen sitting on the bed with the lights out, meaning that someone had locked him in the room because it was locked from the outside, so he's just sitting there in the lights waiting for whatever's going to happen. So he was awake, let her clean up the room. While she was cleaning the room, he got a phone call.
That is really eerie.
Yeah, just go ahead, clean in the dark while I watch you. Nothing is odd here as I sit fully clothed on this bed in a locked room.
But there was no note, or that was the note?
No, the note was the first time. This is the second time.
So there's no note?
No note, just him sitting there.
So she assumed
he was
and
asleep
walked
with the
in.
note. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he takes a phone call while she's cleaning, and he says over the phone, No, Don, I don't want to eat. I just had breakfast. No, I am not hungry. And he hung up the phone. Now later the same day, the maid returned with more towels. This chick is really into towels.
This woman is extreme. Like, she's sleuthing. I feel like she understands
probably.
something's
And
up.
towels are her excuse.
She has the exact phrasing of the conversation, phone call conversation. She knew that the guy was agitated and being weird in her first interaction. She's like super like Monk, the the fucking
the OCD detective.
yeah. She's like picking up on weird shit no one else is. She's like, he only had a comb and toothbrush.
The rest of her floor is like, I received no towels.
I haven't
She's
had a
just
towel all
buzzing
week.
around this one dude's room. Is there
Just
a maid
whipping towels
at
at
the
him.
hotel president?
Now, she knocked on the door, but this time she heard two voices in the room. When she said she had towels, a deep, rough voice told her, Leave. We have enough towels. Though she knew they had none because she had just taken all the dirty towels earlier and was bringing back clean ones. So she's like, You definitely don't have enough towels. I have all the towels.
Right.
Why don't you need more towels? And so for her, this had to be a nightmare world.
Yeah, she lived for the towel.
Yeah, she did. As she should.
TAO.
the Tao of Towel. So she left. That night, other guests on the 10th floor complained about hearing loud voices coming from the room, both male and female. The next morning, the hotel operator noticed that Owen's phone had been knocked off the hook for a while. So a bellboy was sent to check on Roland to see if he's okay. Then the bellboy noticed a Do Not Disturb sign on the door.
That had never been there before.
Right. This is the first time. And so he fucking knocked anyway. They always do. It says do not disturb. They're like, well, they don't mean disturb this much. They mean like, no. So of course she knocks. Or he, excuse me. Of course he knocks. He heard a low voice respond, come in.
No.
Turn on the lights. But the door was locked and no one responded. He knocked a few more times. No one responded. So he just yelled, hey, put the phone back on the hook, okay? And left. He was like, okay, I don't like this. He felt creeped out. He went back. Almost 2 hours later, the phone was still off the hook. So they sent another bellboy, and he used his passkey and entered the room. The room was completely dark this time.
This is the badass bellboy.
Yeah, he's like, fuck this.
This
I'm
is the
going
fucking
in.
serious
I am
one.
going in.
Yo, I got the passkey.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was a pussy, but this one's just crazy.
I identify more with the first one. I'm not going to go fucking walk into this weird ass room.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
a bellboy, all
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, the manager of the hotel gets to go into that fucking room, not me.
Way above my pay grade.
Yeah, fuck that.
Not paid
And
to
he's
do
not
this.
tipping you when you get in there with this weird ass fucking locked door, come in, turn on the lights bullshit.
No, that shit ain't happening. The room was dark, but by the light of the hallway, he could see Roland laying naked on the bed face first, and the phone on the floor near the bedstand. So the bellboy, assuming that Roland was just drunk, righted the table, put the phone on the hook, and backed out of the room. He later stated that he noticed that the bedding around Owen was darkened. He assumed it was, he wet the bed, or maybe shit the bed. It happens when you're drinking. Come on, right? That happens like a lot when you drink, right? Like at least only like once a month or, every other week or something, right? Right?
Talking about blood shitting, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah, totally. Okay, thank you. God, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, no.
Around 10:45 a.m., the phone was off the hook again. Even after being righted, all of a sudden, it's off the hook again.
The second bellboy was like, now that's bullshit because I know that guy was dead. That guy was dead? What? What did I say?
So they
Listen,
said,
not for nothing, I'm clocking out. I got to get the fuck out of here.
I'm good for the day. Can you pick up my shift there, Rhonda? Thanks. So the third bellboy is set to fix the issue, but was met with a very, very different scene. He stated, quote, when I entered the room, this man was within 2 feet of the door on his knees and elbows, holding his head in his hands.
Oh!
I noticed the blood on his head. Then I turned the light on. I looked around and saw blood on the wall, blood on the bed, and in the bathroom. This frightened me, and I immediately left the room and went downstairs. Police and an ambulance were sent to the scene immediately. Amazingly, when they arrived, Owen was still somewhat alive. When asked if anyone else had been in the room, he responded, nobody. Then he claimed he fell and hit his head on the bathtub, which is completely reasonable because they later noticed that he'd been tied up with a cord around his neck and wrists and ankles, had a fractured skull, and been stabbed in the chest several times and had a punctured lung. So that always happens when you slip and hit your head on a bathtub.
Bathrooms are terrible, dangerous places with a lot of
They're the most dangerous place in the home. They're the most dangerous place in the home. Except the kitchen if you're at my house. So the doctor said that the injuries happened 6 to 7 hours ago, meaning that he was bleeding out when the second bellboy arrived. That was blood in the bed, and he was laying there bleeding out. So there's some theories that he kept on just trying to reach for the phone in mid-consciousness and knocking it over and not be able to dial for help and just crawling off the bed and just barely living and then eventually, dying. So, yeah, he died that night, January 5th, at the hospital. Detectives found no weapon and none of Owen's belongings in the room, even the small amount of things he brought, none of it, none of his clothes, not even his coat, his brush, all that, gone. All they found was a hairpin, an unlit cigarette, and 4 small fingerprints on the phone that they suspected were female. Now, they researched into his name, and they could find nowhere a record of anyone with that name. Either there, he said to the bellboy that he was that he was from Los Angeles. They checked there, could find nothing. No one could ever come find that name anywhere.
False name.
So his body was even put on display, and photos were sent to newspapers saying, "Do you know this man?" to no avail. So his body was about to be buried in a potter's field when the funeral home received an anonymous call saying that they would send money for a proper funeral. And a few days later, cash arrived wrapped in a newspaper. Anonymous flowers were also sent with a card that said, "Love forever, Louise." Now, about a year and a half later, a woman named Ruby finally identified the man as her son, whose name was Artemis Ogletree.
Yeah.
Artemis fucking Ogletree, dude.
That's a great name.
That is amazing. If he's not a drummer or like
a badass hitman.
Either one. So, and at the time of his death, he was only 17, according to Ruby.
Really?
Yes. And she also reported that she had received 3 letters from her son after he had died in that hotel room, because she didn't know he was dead. And with a month after his death, she received 3 different letters, and they were all typed, which he never typed and didn't even know how to type, and used slang and terminology that was completely unfamiliar to Artemis. And so that always confused her, and now it seemed like she had an idea that, okay, these weren't from him because of the whole death thing. So throughout the years, there have been other bits and pieces of clues. There's been a lot of possibilities of tied to him cheating on a woman and then the jilted lover coming and the both of them killing him. There's mob connections with him staying at other hotels nearby with other men. And so but none of it has ever been able to tie the whole thing down. Throughout the years, there have been bits and pieces of clues, but nothing ever comes close to explaining how or why the horrors of room 1046 happened.
The fact that he was alive but wouldn't say,
yeah,
who did it.
That's crazy. I mean, if you know you're going to be dead, I'd be like, fucking, it was Fred and Jennifer. Go fucking get it.
Right, exactly. I feel like that debunks the jilted lover theory, because if it is like crime of passion, these 2 people kill you, and you have the ability to be like, it's Jennifer, then yeah, but
it had to be something that was such an extreme kink that he didn't want to embarrass his parents. Or something like that.
If he was 17, if all that checks out, then yeah, you're dealing with.
Well, maybe he was, he was advanced. He got into it deep, quick.
Oh yeah, 1935.
Name like Artemis Ogletree.
Yeah,
Something's happening. Freak.
Something's happening.
Kid was a freak.
Fuck yeah, he was.